Michigan Governor Rick Snyder is speaking out about the Flint water crisis, saying he does not think he will face criminal charges, and the state is doing everything it can to ensure Flint has safe drinking water.
Unfortunately, it's been politicized nationally so much, but it's really important that we're doing things on the ground to help the citizens of Flint. So that involves the water and water infrastructure systems, that involves better health care to how do we mitigate it, particularly the effects of the lead, particularly with children. The educational system with early childhood opportunities. These are programs we're doing, but expanding them there.
This week, charges were brought against two state environmental quality officials. Mike Prisby and Stephen Bush pleaded not guilty to 6 felony charges against them. A Flint city official will also be charged. The charges come nearly 2 years after the city of Flint began exposing tens of thousands of its residents to the toxic water. The Michigan State Attorney General says these criminal charges are only the beginning.
We will get you the answers, and we will hold those accountable. We're not targeting any persons or people. Nobody's off limits either.
All right, CNN's Sarah Ganem has more from Flint.
Allegations of tampering, negligence, purposefully altering test results to make it look like Flint's water supply was safe when it was not.
They failed Michigan families. Indeed, they failed us all, and I don't care where you live.
Two officials with the State Department of Environmental Quality, Stephen Bush and Mike Prisby, facing charges of official misconduct, tampering with evidence, and violation of the Safe Drinking Water Act. Prosecutors say they deliberately failed to treat the water properly, leading to high levels of lead, bacteria, and disease. The crisis has left Flint deprived of clean water for nearly 2 years. It caused hundreds of Flint children to be poisoned with lead. 12 people died of the waterborne Legionnaire's disease, and officials are investigating. They suspect it was caused by the poorly treated water.
No one is above the law.
Another official at the city's water treatment plant also charged with helping to cover up the warning signs that Flint's water was toxic. Mike Glasgow told CNN last month in his only sit-down interview that he tried to do the right thing but was directed by Bush and Prisby to change the water testing report in early 2015.
So you changed the report with the lead numbers in Flint residences. Did you do that to try to cover up what was happening?
No, I only did it because I was instructed to.
Did you ever argue with them on whether or not you should change it?
No, I just asked the question why, and they cited some, I guess, solidified reasoning to remove a couple items, so I didn't question it much further.
Glasgow says Bush and Prisby convinced him to make the changes for technical reasons. He believed it was because some homes only had partial lead piping. He says he didn't feel he had the power to overrule their decision, but prosecutors say that isn't enough.
That defense didn't work in several places when, you're ordered to do something, right? Nuremberg and the like. It's a tough situation with regards to Mr. Glasgow. But when you did a criminal act, an overt act, and you had the corrupt mind to do that act, you're going to be charged.
There may be some people out there, some members of the community who believe that you share some responsibility for this. What do you say to them?
I think about that every day. I was a key figure, I guess, in some of this, looking at, I'm operating the treatment plant, overseeing some of the sampling, but born and raised here in Flint, I would never do nothing to hurt this city or its citizens.
All right, Sarah, again, thank you so much for that reporting. So Prisby and Bush pleaded not guilty to all charges. CNN was unable to reach any of the men for comment. All right, right now I'm joined by one of the whistleblowers who uncovered the Flint water crisis. Virginia Tech civil engineering professor Mark Edwards led an independent team that tested Flint's water. He found the river water to be 19 times more corrosive than water from Detroit, which came from Lake Huron. All right, Professor, good to see you. When you heard that press conference, when you heard of the charges, what were you thinking and feeling?
Well, we thought in summer of 2015 that environmental crimes were being committed here, both by the state Michigan Department of Environmental Quality and a senior EPA administrator. And that's why we went to Flint and worked with the residents to test the safety of their water. And we also uncovered that report that had been changed and altered to essentially convert Flint's grade of an F for failing for lead into an A. So I think it's very clear we hold people accountable for essentially destroying a city, which is what happened here by the time you account for the Legionella deaths and also the damaged pipe infrastructure.
I mean, all of these people who have been poisoned, and you mentioned the 12 who died with Legionnaires, and young, old, just everything in between who have been poisoned. So what has your conscience been like, after making the discovery of this, these toxic figures in the water? Personally, what did you feel when you saw these numbers and what potentially was happening to people's bodies ingesting this?
I felt shame because my profession, the scientists and engineers from my profession caused this problem, and it could have been prevented. We've been screaming at the EPA for 10 years to stop the cheating that's occurring, and EPA did nothing over the last decade. So when it happened, unfortunately, I was not surprised. I was expecting it. But unfortunately, it happened to these poor people in Flint who did nothing to deserve this.
And what do you think should happen next? We heard from the Attorney General in that very powerful press conference and other, lead investigators who said there will be more charges coming. In your view, how high up would it potentially go? How far down the food chain would it potentially go, given there are a lot of eyeballs, and a lot of people involved in the availability of making this water available for people, imposing it on people?
Based on my experience looking at these unethical decisions made over the last decade or so, it's very clear there were a few key core bad apples at the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality that misled just about everyone, from the governor's office to the mayor to the state health department. And so certainly they have to be held accountable, as does the senior EPA administrator, who essentially covered this problem up and made an agreement with the state that EPA would not be helping the residents of Flint.
So you do believe it was a cover up in terms of the many people who knew, because there was such a delay before there was a state of emergency? And do you also have, in your heart, a feeling of intention? Why would anyone want to be complicit or involved in something that ultimately ruins people's lives, and everyone knows it?
Yeah, I think this, like most engineering and science disasters, just started out innocently. Maybe someone forgot to do their job, but as in politics, it's always the cover-up that gets you, ignoring warning sign after warning sign, and finally at some point you clearly cross into the line of criminal negligence, where Flint's children are in harm's way, and you're not only doing nothing about it, but you're fighting outside people like Virginia Tech, like all the people who stood up for the kids of Flint, trying to discredit them, and frankly, working overtime to keep the kids drinking that water and allowing the damage to occur. So it's really the cover-up that crosses the line into this criminal negligence category.
Do you personally feel some relief that you helped expose this?
I'm sorry?
Do you personally feel relief that you helped expose this?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, if we did not get involved, those kids would still be drinking the water. The harm would have been done. But, you could have blamed the problems on bad parenting, bad schools, bad local government. The city would have been destroyed, and a children's future would have been harmed. So we had no choice.
All right, Virginia Tech Professor Mark Edwards, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.